Hello, it's Maggie, the Cheshire Crafter here. Now, as you know, I have my vintage Singer sewing machine set up on my kitchen table, and eagle-eyed of you will have noticed what I have behind the sewing machine, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. It's cotton thread, in particular vintage cotton thread, and some of the best British brands that are household names and have been used for years. Come into the kitchen with me and I'll show you what I mean. But behind my sewing machine, I've started a collection of vintage threads, in particular Sylko and Chain Anchor threads. And I have what I call my Sylko theatre here. Let me show you closer. And the other thing is, this beautiful musical tin that I bought for the King's coronation is now, well, I've got to eat the biscuits first, but it's now waiting for some beautiful Sylko threads. So let's just see if we can play a little bit of that for you. I've currently got gold in my machine, and it sews beautifully. My Singer machine absolutely loves this thread. So do I. I bought this little cabinet, quite a few years ago now, and I wondered what to keep in it. And as I started collecting these vintage Sylko cotton reels, I realised it was the perfect size and shape, and rather like auriculas are displayed by the florists, the plants are a type of primula. I thought, I'm going to get a Sylko display theatre. And partly why I love this is because you can see the sheen and the shine and the colours beautifully on the Sylko threads. And there's a reason why, even decades later after they were made, they're still sought after. And there is a certain nostalgia and a love of them. And I'll show you why. Let me open the cabinet and you can actually see the colours properly. We go from rich purples through the blues. And they've all got names, like lilac or hyacinth or emerald or jade, citronella, ruby, cerise. What I'm lacking, look at the colour of that green, it's gorgeous, isn't it? The golds. And there's a reason why the colours are still rich now, and I'm going to talk to you about that. When I was young, in my teenage years, I worked on a Saturday in Woolworths, and one of the departments I had to work in was the haberdashery department, and we sold Sylko threads, and they were sold in spaces where the colour of the cotton was displayed like this, and as you took one it clunked down to reveal more. And what we had to do is keep topping them up from the back, so you'd always have the cabinet looking full. So they looked like that. We've got the very familiar logo here and lots of information on them, and as you can hear, that's a wooden reel. So let's take a closer look at those reels. Japonica, it's quite exotic, isn't it? This is just part of my stash in a Marks and Spencer's biscuit tin, but I actually have got some of the original boxes that were used in those haberdashery stores years ago. The original haberdashery cabinets are for sale on eBay for something like £800 in pristine condition. Beautiful wood, some of them. And sometimes when I buy them on eBay, I'm fortunate to get them supplied in one of the original boxes. So let's take a look, first of all, in this tin. So my tin contains a variety of bobbins from Dewhurst Sylko. on wooden bobbins or plastic bobbins. I think this is a plastic bobbin. Yeah, this is a plastic bobbin. And they started to go to plastic around about in the 80s, I think. Prior to that, they were all wooden. I have some old wooden bobbins from brands that I can't actually find out much about on the internet, and that's Sylvia and Sylicarn. But the reason that they've got SYL, or the Syl, in the name is because it's a silk replacement. They tried to make a cotton in the industry that would replace silk and make it more affordable. But this is why most households had cotton thread, because they made it affordable. And I'm going to talk to you about the process. I've also got them by Lustre. You can see when Sylko went to the EEC and we had to have yards and meters and barcodes on the branch, you can see how much I paid for them. On one of the reels, I've actually got a 7 pence on it. I haven't got anything with pounds, shillings and pence. I've got some of the larger Sylko brands. Then I've got some of the Coats and Gutterman's cotton. Different brands that I bought from the internet. And then we go into JP Coats, which was also a British brand. Oops. JP Coats and some of their older reels. And you see sometimes they call it cord or super sheen or satinized. Now let's take a look at what's in these boxes too. As you can see, I've been buying them off eBay and I've been storing them colour coded. These are all Sylkos. Most of them are unopened, so they're as new, and you can see they've kept their colour really well. Now this shape is called a cop. So on the side of the box, you'll see it says 10 cops, each with 500 metres. That gives me an idea, when it says metres rather than yards, that it's post 1970, when we went into the European Economic Community. I've got two sizes of this. I've got 500 metres, or the larger cops, which are, should we take that one, which are 1,000 metres. Now these don't give a colour name. What they give on the side is detail. So it tells me there's 1,000 metres, how many yards there are. It's Sylko, the brand, and it's mercerised cotton. Now the mercerisation process started about 150 years ago by a man called John Mercer. And he realised that if you stripped the matte layer off cotton and were left with the inner thread cotton, it would take up a dye that would be silkier in look. It would have a lustre. It would take up the dye more readily. It would be colour fast and would hold that colour and glide through the needle, the fabric or machines more easily. And that's what mercerised means. It also means that the thread has been strengthened. On this one, I actually have a dye colour, D36, and 36 is the weight of the cotton thread. If this is 36, as we look at the cotton reels, we'll see that the cotton reels are 40 weight, or I've even got a thinner one that's 50 weight. So the lower the number means the thicker the thread. The thinner the number means the thinner the thread. And it relates to how much cotton you can get per tonnage. But it's a real good guide on the outside of your cotton reels, or the outside of your wrapper or the box. Now, I don't understand what the 3 shells logo relates to. I can't find any information about that. But Dewhurst made all this in their mill in Yorkshire, outside Skipton. And you can see that they put the name of J. Dewhurst and Sons, Sylko fast dye, mercerised cotton, how many metres, made in Britain, the die cast number on this one, and it's got a number and a name for that colour, so that you can match the colour and the die cast to make sure that you've got continuity through your threads. You can see I've got more golds. I've got one in the machine at the moment. Now, likewise, there was another company called JP Coates, and let's take a look at one of these. JP Coates, let's look at that one. Again, has been around nearly 200 years now. A very good British brand that have been bought out around the world and trade on the stock market still. So when you go to your quilt and sewing shows, take a look at the threads. Take more interest in the threads, because they make threads for, obviously these are machine sewing, embroidery, crochet, knitting. There's a great deal of information around them, and you'll see the way that they've been put onto a cop. On the cop, they're actually put on across on a diagonal, and so that they will come off the machine, off on the machine in a different way. You'll see on the reels they've been put on horizontally. There's no crisscrossing of the threads on those. What I am lacking is white. I'm finding it very difficult to get a Sylko white, but I have two colours coming, chocolate brown and kingfisher blue, and they will end up in that beautiful musical tin. I find it very interesting that some of the brands are classed as English Sewing or English Sewing Limited, and then have made in Great Britain on them. Look at this one, English Sewing Limited, made in Great Britain. The Sylicarn machine twist, though, I suspect might be more from Paisley in Scotland, close to where not only where the factories, but close to where the machines were made. Singer sewing machine was a huge trade in Scotland, and I think some of these companies have been brought up in the mills next to the cotton industry. Now, there's very little made in Britain anymore, sadly. I can't find a brand as good as this. And the reason that these have held such affection is because they sew beautifully. There is a very high lustre on them. They're machine twisted. As you can see, there's at least 3 strands twisted together. That's why they call it a machine twist. Where does it say machine twist? Machine twist on the cottons. And sometimes 6 cord means that the 6 cords twisted together to create one piece. Some people just collect the old cotton reels for the shape and the look of them. I actually like the cotton on them, I must admit. There are many people who realise that they've inherited their sewing kits from their loved ones once they've died, and they realise the value and nostalgia of what's contained in the kits, and then the people that are selling them on eBay realise that there's money to be made, and there is, and that's where I've got all mine from. This on the left is one of the Sylko cops. This is Oroville. This is Gutterman cotton, and this is Gutterman cotton. And I can't see that these plastic bobbins will hold any nostalgia in the future. No matter how nice the cotton is, it's just not the same. It's plastic. It's got a number, not a name. And these are going to be throwaway plastics. don't like them. This is Maggie, the Cheshire Crafter. Come back and see me soon, won't you? Bye.